affected. Look at you. It's not
So quickly.
spectacular. It's not special. What it is a celebration of who we are or who black women are in a society that says that black women are less than, not equal, uneducated, unspectacular, all of the above, ghetto, insert insult here.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I find when I look at Black Girl Magic, I'm looking at the, dare I say, social media or media correction of the wrongs that have been done to my mother, her
Mm-hmm.
mother, her mother, and her mother, going all the way back to the point when my people was told that you don't have a God anymore. You got to worship this God over here. And this God
Mm-hmm.
over here has said to you that it's okay for you to be a slave because you got that mark of Ham. That's the color of your skin. And you're
Mm-hmm.
taught that you're less than and not equal to, and you deserve your own oppression. When Black Girl Magic comes into play, it's about saying, I don't have to follow that narrative. But what I am going to do is show you that I am not following that narrative.
So this is so I agree with the secular of your logic, but I disagree with your premise, and I think it is because of those um, because Black Girl Magic exists is what makes it so special. So think about it this way, right? We tend to believe that if it's popular opinion, then it's probably true, right? Pick a topic. I don't know. Netflix is good, right? Okay, so
You ain't gonna talk
everybody
about
watches
Netflix.
Netflix,
You
right?
ain't gonna talk about Netflix because I will cut your mic if you start talking about Netflix.
Right. So we tend as a collective to lean towards the average, right? To lean towards what the aggregate is saying.
Right.
And so if you put black women in a position of always being recipient of hearing that you were less than, that you were incapable, that you were unable, that you were unwanted, that your contribution does not matter. And yet, not only do we continue to contribute, not only do we continue to excel, but we do so with such grace and brilliance and flawlessness. That's what makes it magic. That to me is what makes it special. It would be one thing if you were able to be successful in all optimal circumstances. To me, that's not special, right? If everything has been given to you such that your success is ensured, and then you go out in the world, well, we should expect you to do great things. But if you have been set up as a collective to be indoctrinated to believe that you are invaluable, to be indoctrinated to actually internalize insecurity about your worth and value in the world, and yet you go out and do it anyway. And then when you show up and do it, you make everybody else look like they were sleeping on the job. That's Black Girl Magic.
And that's also the reason why you have the DR in front of your name and I have the MR in front of mine. All right, I see you. I hear
You
you.
see? And so for me, but that's the part of it that I really want us to be reflective of, because every time we are celebrating our brilliance, what we really are doing is celebrating our resilience.
And I think the other thing that's important is, and one of the things that I like to do when I do diversity workshops is use myself as an example and my own imperfections. And what I think is important here is that what you just did was pointed out how I, even though I appreciated, understood, and supported, I still held on to oppressive notions and used that oppression as my litmus test or my ability to judge, my meter to judge, and said, well, this is nothing special. It just is.
No.
But the fact that it strives and moves against is exactly what makes it special, because the deck is so stacked against our sisters. And I think that's important. It's an important point for me to know. It's an important point for black men in general, for us to know, and people in general, if you want to support black women, we have to let black women take the lead in how they want to be supported, instead of saying to them, oh, well, this is what you need to do. Oh, really, sir? Is that what I need to do? You're going to mansplain to me my womanliness? And I see that happening a lot. So thank you for catching that for me personally and for our listeners as a prime example of what we don't need to be doing when talking about these subjects.
I think, and the other piece that I would add to that layer, and we can talk next week when we talk about Black Boy Joy, about how much the mansplaining happens. We can say that for next time, because there's another piece that I want to bring in here, and that's this issue of our resilience as a collective, as a sisterhood, when we talk about Black Girl Magic. And so I love this quote that came from Jesse Williams when he won the BET Humanitarian Award last year. And he gave a really brilliant speech, and you can find the whole speech online, but there's a part of it that says, just because we're magic does not mean we're not real. And so that's the other piece, that in all of our celebration of Black Girl Magic, and in all of our recognition of our brilliance and our resilience, is that I think it's really important that we don't forget that Black Girl Magic is not an armor or a shield from hurt or pain or past trauma, right? That resilience is born out of struggle. And so in really thinking about how we can leverage and continue to see Black Girl Magic kind of multiply and really move throughout the community and the world, as I believe that it really should, I think we have to also acknowledge that that comes out of a history of struggle, and it comes out of a history of hurt, and that we still rise, but we are rising from something, right? And that if we want to really look at the completeness of anything, and this is what I believe to be true, is if we want to look at the completeness of anything, you always have to look at the light and the dark. Right. And that if we want to have freedom and happiness that comes from full expression of who you are in the world, so you have to be able to look at both and look at the complexity of both things. That, I'm magical. My daughter is in this process of thinking that she has magical powers, and she does her hands in these really like contorted ways and thinks that she can move things, and she'll say, "Mommy, watch my magic," right?
Your daughter does have magical powers. I follow your blog. Your daughter has Black Girl Magic for life. Like,
and so we literally just, I hadn't talked to her about this show or anything like that this week, but just this week, I was doing her hair. We're getting ready for summer camp. And she says, "Mommy, watch my magic." And she does something. And then she said, "Do you have magic?" And I looked at her with the straightest face and I said, "Of course, I have Black Girl Magic." And she was like, "Do I have Black Girl Magic?" And I said, "Of course you do. You're my daughter, right?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "And you're Nana's grandbaby, right?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "And you're Granny's great grandbaby, right?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Well, you got Black Girl Magic in spades." And she was like, "What can I do with my Black Girl Magic?" I said, "Anything you want." And I believe that to be true. And in the process of knowing that to be true, I know that also will come with challenge, right? Because the world is not set up to celebrate her Black Girl Magic. The world is not set up to celebrate my Black Girl Magic. People want to get close to it. They want to shimmy up against it. They want to sometimes try to take it. But it is ours and ours alone.
As you're saying this, I must say, I'm in the background writing down, because I can't say it out loud because it'll interrupt you too much. But for the last 5-10 minutes or so, I've been saying ashe, 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 with a finger snap behind each one, because the punctuation of what you're saying is so important. But I think it's interesting, and this is where you and I differ. You are the psychologist. I am the philosopher. So I want to make this practical. And I'm going to put you on the spot, Doc. Doc is in.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one, two, three things that I, as a black man, as other black men, what can we do to support our sisters and help to ensure that this magic doesn't get snatched away or muted or destroyed in any means, shape, or form, as it has in the past? What can we do? How can we support our sisters?
Sure. And I mean, I thought you were going to come with something a little bit harder than that. I could rattle that off in my sleep. Number one, stop talking and start listening. And I mean, really listen. Number two,
what'd you say? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
And that's why I paused, because I knew you needed a moment to catch up with me.
I'm sorry, I was too busy talking. Were you saying something there, ma'am? I apologize.
Seriously, stop talking and start listening. And by that, I mean even and really listening. So you can have dialogue, and, you know, I love you, Tomas, like a brother that I never had, a brother from another mother. But even you and I, we have our moments where I'm like, I know this black man is not trying to tell me as a full-grown black woman with a PhD how to go about living my life. I know that's not what's happening right now.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes,
I need to mansplain to you. I need to mansplain to you because you don't get the mansplaining enough, so I got to give it to you. So there you go. And I give you the black mansplaining, so it got an edge to it.
Oh, God. So very true. But a lot of times, even when we are in dialogue with other people, and this isn't necessarily just limited to like a cross-gender thing, but a lot of times when we are in dialogue with other person, we really aren't listening. What we're doing is waiting for our turn to speak. And there is a huge difference between listening and waiting for your turn to speak.
Right.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is be willing to acknowledge that though you may know a lot, you don't know everything. And that there's opportunity for new learning to happen if you are actually engaging in a dialogue with someone. And number three, work on yourself. Get your black boy joy up.
I know that's right. I know that's right. And it's so funny you say that, because I'm going to really enjoy next week, because it's when a brother has a smile on his face, it's a threat to people. Like, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
like people just can't you can't sit down on a train or someplace just smiling and feeling joy to yourself. I don't have to be angry all the time. I'm good.
Yeah.
So I think that those are wonderful, yet interestingly enough, simplistic to the point where they can be applied to all aspects of life.
Yes, this is true. I mean, I think us, the collective us, we don't have to do what we have to do to be a stronger collective, to be a more loving and connected collective isn't hard. It's really simple, but it isn't always easy to get to that space. The answers are simple, but getting to that space to do it sometimes seems a little bit daunting.
Yeah, the work can be challenging because the work requires you to step beyond ego. And we all know that ego, it is what it is. Some people don't even understand or realize they have it. So it's a little challenging to say to someone, move beyond something that you don't recognize. So I think that there's a lot of work to do in all regards. But we're running out of time, but I want to ask one last question, and that is, what about our sisters who cannot relate to what we've been talking about today, and they don't experience or understand almost on a visceral level what is Black Girl Magic? How do they connect? How does the rest of the community reach them, connect with them, and help them to be better versions of themselves?
Yeah. So one thing is that I really want to highlight this idea of connecting to. So there's a couple quotes that I wanted to share. One, I actually and they don't. I couldn't find the original source for them, but they're kind of all over the internet, and I love them. And one is that it says, "Black women are made out of brown sugar, cocoa, honey, and gold, and the strength of 10,000 moons." So for me, that means that it's in you, whether you feel like you have it there or not. And I know for a lot of sisters out there in the world, it feels like like that is a foreign concept. There's a sense of disconnect from that